Hello, former Crusaders, and welcome to another episode. My name's Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. I didn't mess it up like I did last episode. And today we are going to be, yes, wish wash, like windshield wiper. Today we are going to be reviewing 4 movies that came out this past weekend. Probably, I would say, isn't this probably the biggest movie drop for the summer? In terms of like quality films that are coming out in a weekend. I know there's some that have like 2 but is this probably the most that we have?
Yeah, I mean, Life for Chuck is still only limited until this coming weekend, but I'd say as far as quality stuff, I mean, they aren't the biggest films necessarily, but like I was telling you, I mean, spoiler alert, like 3 of my top 5 movies for the year so far came out this week. So quality, I'd say yes.
Yeah, because I mean, I was going through the week and I was like, okay, yeah, Ballerina comes out, Predator comes out, and then I was like, oh damn, Dangerous Animals and Life of Chuck come out. I was like, man, I got a lot of movies I have to watch this weekend. It's like, whereas the rest of the summer, it's like 1, maybe 2, and then there are like others that'll spring out. Like, well, if I want to watch that, yeah, okay. Which I guess Dangerous Animals was like that too. But the premise of it made me definitely want to watch that. But if you guys haven't figured out yet, those are the 4 movies we're going to be talking about. We will preface this at the beginning. For Predator and Ballerina, we will have a spoiler discussion. When that happens, I will obviously warn you guys beforehand. Just check the time codes down below if you want to jump from the non-spoiler Predator to the next movie and not watch the Predator spoilers. And Ballerina, that'll be the very, very last thing. So if you guys make it through all the way through and we get to the spoiler conversation of Ballerina and you don't want to be spoiled yet, that's going to be basically the end of the video. So you guys can stop or pause it and wait, go see Ballerina, and then come back. But we are going to start with Predator, Killer of Killers, which came out on Hulu this weekend. I think you and I are both, for the most part, in an agreement, is that we're both huge Predator fans. We both love Predator. But, I mean, I was a fan of Predators. I liked the concept of Predators when it came out. I know a lot of people didn't love it. That's actually one of my more favorable ones. But I think we were all real excited for Predator with the Predator with your boy. I'm blanking on his name. What?
Shane Black.
Yeah, Shane Black writing. But I think it mildly disappointed a lot of people, or didn't really hit what we were expecting, especially with that cast and him writing it and directing. But then Prey came out, and Prey was one of those where it's like, oh, they're dropping a Predator movie on Hulu. It's like, what the fuck? Like, Hulu? Like, that's what Predator's become now, is a Hulu drop. And it ended up becoming one of the more surprising films of the year, taking the Predator out of present day, which has always kind of been their thing, and dropping them, in the past with Native Americans and Amber Midthunder, and introduced the world to her. And it was a very solid Predator film. It jumped right up to my rankings of the Predator films, because I'm more of a Predator fan than I am an Alien fan. I don't know if you're preference one over the other. Are you more Alien or are you more Predator?
I think it's close, because the Predator movies, I like all the Predator movies to different degrees. I'm not counting Alien versus Predator. I'm not
okay. I can't defend the AVPs. The AVPs are trash.
Predator films. Even Predator 2, not a great film, but just as a kind of throwaway 90s action sequel, I enjoyed it. Predators, like you, I enjoyed it. I especially love that ensemble cast and the concept of it. The Predator, I enjoy a lot more than most people. Was I a little disappointed by it, and were there things that I wish they'd done differently? Absolutely. But I still enjoyed the action in it. I enjoyed the comedy. I enjoyed the characters. So I liked that one. And of course, the first one is the best. The Alien movies, I think the Aliens, the problem is, has the higher highs and the lower lows. It's like Aliens, love it. Alien, I'm not as big a fan, but it's still an excellent film. And the other ones, like Resurrection and Alien 3, I like, but they're definitely flawed. And then those last couple that Ridley Scott did with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I'm not a huge fan of at all. The whole engineer aspect of it.
So, and Romulus.
Actually, Romulus, I actually liked that one. Not as much as some people, but I did like that one. But so it's hard for me to say, because Predator is more consistently enjoyable for me, but Aliens has higher highs and lower lows. So read that how you will.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we have over the last 2 years, we have kind of had this resurgence. Because last year we had Prey, or was it not last? No, it wasn't.
2022.
It was 2022, and then last year we had Romulus, but this year we've got 2 Predator films, the one we're talking about right now, and then a live-action Predator later in the year with Badlands, and then we have Alien Earth starting in, is it August? Which I'm not 100% sure if I'm sold on the show. To me, it feels a lot like, and granted, a lot of people loved this show. I was kind of like, it reminds me of a lot of like Legion, where it's like, oh, it's an X-Men show. Is it though? And I remember, and I love Dan Stevens to death and Audrey Plaza, but this is how I always felt when I watched Legion, was like, it's an hour show. The first 50 minutes, I'm bored as fuck and I don't care. And then somehow the last 10 minutes make me go, oh, okay, that was pretty awesome. And I'm afraid Alien Earth is going to kind of be like that, where it's going to be not entertaining for 4/5 of the movie or the show, and then the last 10 minutes, it's like we got to hook them so they come back for the next episode. I watched the trailer and it hasn't really wowed me.
Because I never watched Legion. I think I watched the first 1 or 2 episodes. I'm clearly a big X-Men fan. But it didn't do it for me, which is surprising because I really like Dan Stevens. I like Aubrey Plaza. But I didn't really.
I think I got to the 4th one. I was like, I'll watch them later, and then I never went back.
Yeah, I just never went back. I kind of thought the same thing. I didn't really abandon the show, but I'm like, it's not a priority, and then I just never went back. With Alien Earth, I gotta say, I was intrigued and interested to see an Alien TV show. The trailer has made me less interested in watching the show. I'm watching this going, this is not the show I want for an Alien thing. So I'm like, I'll check it out, but I'm predicting I will end up abandoning it, honestly.
And I will probably, like always, you'll abandon it, and I will truck my way through at least the first season of it.
And I'll wait for you to tell me if it's worth watching or not.
Especially if it's going to be conclusive into the rest of the stratosphere of the Alien or AVP franchises. Mm-hmm. But so wheeling back to Predator here, when Predator Killer of Killers got announced, I don't think you and I really knew what the hell it was. Other than just an animated Predator.
We knew they were making another Predator film. And then they're like, oh, guess what? It's actually 2 Predator movies coming out next year. We're like, what? There's like, yeah, there's going to be an animated one and a live action one, which, okay, we're like, that's ambitious. And then we find out one of them's going to Hulu. But I was like, that whole animated aspect, I wasn't sure what to think of that, because it's like, obviously you see things like Spider-Verse, which is really well done. And I've seen, some other animated takes on franchises that have worked, but there's been so many, like they did like an X-Men anime show, and they did like that Terminator anime show. And now granted, that's more anime style, which is not my kind of thing.
Neither
am I. So going into this one, I'm like, I'll check it out. It could be awesome, but it could be lame. And I didn't know what to think of it. But then I gotta say, the first trailer, I was like, okay. My expectations are a little higher.
Well, yeah, that and Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey, did this, and then he's also doing Badlands, right?
Yeah, he did Badlands. He co-directed this. I think it's essentially basically he has a director and there's like an animation director.
He's kind of become Dave Filoni for the Predator world. And it makes me wonder, can he do the same with Alien if they let him do Alien, or is he just strictly just one day, hey, I just want to deal with Predator? Because he has now taken this franchise, and he was an introductory, like we know him from other films, and I've always actually liked his other films that he's done, because he did 10 Cloverfield Lane?
10 Cloverfield Lane is the only real film he's done besides that. He's done some Black Mirror and things like that, though.
Yeah, which, Kimberly had me go back and rewatch all, because I had never watched Black Mirror, and she had me watch all of Black Mirror last year, and I knew which episodes were his. I was like, those are good, but yeah, but I loved 10 Cloverfield Lane, and so I had always kind of had him kind of like, oh, that's a director that I enjoy, and then he did Prey, and once again, wowed me with what he did. Prey is not like one of the best films of the year by any means, but compared to what we had been getting, I was like, oh, damn, he actually took a concept that I think we've all kind of wanted, which was put the Predator against these other kind of people, not just keep putting them in present day. And hey, he made it work. And that is also what he does here. Because I know a lot of people, when Prey came out, it's like, let's see him go against the Spartans. Let's see him go against Vikings. Let's see him go against this group and this group and this group. Now that we know that they'll let the Predator go back in time. And that is basically what Predator Killer of Killers is. It is it's all tied into one story, but it's 3 kind of side stories where the Predator is going against different types of warriors. The first one, it's an anthology to the most, kind of like, and a lot. I know a lot lately. Anthology, everyone's thinking of What If, which technically What If did all kind of come into one big thing. So it's a little bit like that, but it is all like an accurate story. It's not like, oh, what if the Predator was a dinosaur? It's not like that shit. It's just more like this.
It's the same. Predators have existed for centuries, and they've been visiting Earth this whole time. So
and it just seems like that the Predators are in their present day, but they're just time traveling. It looks like, or not time traveling.
They are time traveling. It's just they've been visiting for centuries.
Yeah, and I guess as soon as I said, I was like, wait, that's not right. We'll jump into that more when we go into the spoiler.
I did have that same thought at one point, but I realized I was wrong. So
but it's 3 anthology stories, and they all wrap up into like kind of a 4th one at the end. Where the first story is we take it back to the Viking era. Second story, we're in Japan with like samurais and ninjas and stuff. And then the third one is World War II. And I would actually, I actually want to hear Brian's thoughts on this first before I jump in, because I know I've been doing more of the talking so far when it comes to Predator. But with this anthology aspect and them jumping basically Predator versus blank, did this work for you as an anthology kind of series, or are you more of a I just want a one story per movie kind of person? Did this work for you, or did it not work for you?
I loved this. I loved every section of it. It was the kind of thing where it's like, you know, in your mind, especially after Prey, everybody's thinking, well, what other eras can they show up in? And it would be interesting. It's kind of like that. I remember the show Deadliest Warrior. Where like, what if the Spartan...
I loved that show so much, and I was so disappointed when Spike, for people who remember what Spike was, stop doing it. I loved Deadliest Warrior so much.
But it was like that. It's like, well, what if they faced off against them? And so I'm like, the concept interested me from the beginning. And then I started watching it, and because I think they picked all the right eras. Because of Vikings, I love the whole Viking era. I was watching that one, and from the beginning, I'm like, this is awesome. Because of course, they also didn't, water it down for an animated medium. It was still brutal. It was bloody. It was ultra violent. It was action packed. I loved what they were doing with it. Whether it was the Vikings just facing off against themselves, or of course, once the Predator shows up. And you go on to the Japan segment, which is, I think, my favorite. I mean, it's samurais and ninjas. I mean, what the fuck more do you want in anything? I loved that section, both when they were fighting against each other, and then when the Predator shows up. Enjoyed that. The World War II is probably my least favorite, but I still of the 3, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. So yeah, the whole anthology idea of them going to different eras from the very get-go, it worked for me, and I didn't even know it was coming in the 4th section. So.
Yeah, I guess when I saw the trailer, I guess I wasn't really like computing that this was an anthology thing. So I wasn't like I wasn't fully paying attention to it, because it's like I want to watch it, but I don't want to watch it kind of thing. But I did not know it was like, oh, it's 3 separate stories kind of thing. So when I went into it, I'm glad it didn't like change my thought process of it from first viewing to second viewing. But I'm glad I watched it a second time, because I watched it like at 2 a.m. one night. And like the first time viewing, I was like, I enjoyed it. I didn't know if I loved it. And then I watched it a second time. So I was like, you know what? I was like, I was kind of nodding off, not because I was bored, just because I was exhausted. I need to watch this again. And I watched it a second time when I was more awake, and it just made everything stronger for me. I'm kind of in an agreement with you when it comes to the stories. I think the Viking one is really, really, really good. Obviously, the Japan part is the best one. And I would honestly be okay with any of these 3 having their own just actual film.
Yeah.
I will say the World War II one, I want to say of the other 3, it is the weakest, but watching it a second time, it's a lot stronger than how I felt when I watched it the first time. Because that was the one where I started.
I think it's just because it's not so much about the Predator as it is about the Predator technology, because it's just an air battle. It's basically his ship against the plane.
For the first time ever, for anyone who has been watching Predator all this time, the World War II one is strictly an aerial dogfight. That's what it is. Predator never fights on the ground. He's in his basically battleship the entire time, fighting against these aircraft carriers for World War II. So it's definitely a unique, different story when it comes to the Predator, which is probably where thank you for doing something new that we've never seen before, but also it's like it's the least liked Predator. And I think that's where you're either going to win some people over, or it's going to be, the weakest one, like we both thought. But
I think both of us, I think, really enjoyed it. It was just like our least favorite of the three because it wasn't about the Predator,
Exactly. And like I said, watching it a second time, I felt better about it than I did the first initial time, because that was the one that I started to nod off on when I was watching it the first time. But the second time around, I was like, this is actually really, really good. All three stories are great. And like I agree with you, Japan one is the best one, because that one is just awesome. It's just so freaking awesome. What I love about it as well is that, and that's something that we got in all the movies for the most part, is that the Predator is such a gorgeously beautiful creature, and the way they shoot them in these movies. But in the movies, they all kind of, for the most part, look a little bit the same. One might be bigger than the other, but they all kind of generally look the same kind of style in those movies.
They've had variations on them, which to me I actually very much like, because I think so many franchises be so easy to be like, well, if they're all the same race, so are they all going to look exactly the same? But in the whole Predator franchise, they've all changed a little bit from movie to movie.
But what I loved about this one is all three Predators in this film were so vastly uniquely different. I mean, in Vikings, you get this one that's basically like a fucking tank, which all Predators are tanks, let's be real. But this one is like, dude, this is like a fucking like monster. And his weapon design is awesome in the Viking one. The second one, you get this kind of almost like a ninja Predator himself, which they're all kind of stealthy ninjas, but this one's more sleeker, thinner. Weapon designs are accustomed to the style of where he's at. And then the third one is like this, kind of almost like evil scientist, like battle, like pilot. And they all look different. They all don't like, they all have the tentacles and they all have the mandibles and stuff. I was like, no, they do, but they all have their own separate like persona characters in this, which I loved the hell out of that. And I would have loved to watch all three of these fight each other, because it would have been interesting to see what a battle between these three Predators would have been like. But yeah, I love this the animation style. It was kind of like this almost watercolor kind of like brushstroke painting thing. I think the voice cast is solid throughout this whole thing. I don't think there was ever a weak thing. For people who don't know voice off the top of the head, in the third story, there is a ancestral AVP character in the movie, which I was like, oh, that's Blake. And I was kind of like, I'm so happy they got that person to voice. He's not voicing the same character, mind you, but just that they casted him in this to be in there, I loved. But I thought this was, for what it was, fantastic. I was completely surprised. I was not expecting to go into this just blown away by what they did. And I hope, like, it's one of those, like, I hope they do more of these, but I also don't want it to take away from some awesome, live action films. But I also really want to
put this out the same year as the other one. It gives me some hope that they can do that. They can have, Hulu is where we can have like this animated. I mean, well, I don't want to say universe because it's all the same universe, but they can have like their animated films. Although I would love to see these on the big screen, that would be awesome. But if they want to keep them separate to the live action films in theaters and do this on Hulu, I'm perfectly okay with that, because like you, I loved the animation in this. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous, and I loved, especially for this kind of story where you got this kind of fighting with the ninjas and the samurai and all this, and in the aerial battles as well, what they could do with it in an animated medium. Because I think if they tried to do this in live action, they would not get the budget that they would need to have portrayed all of this action in a live action setting.
Because even with Prey, it was, now that we see what they did with animation, Prey is completely watered down. You have this one real big action sequence with, I think, what was it, the Englishman, where it's like, oh, okay, here's a Predator going full out Predator. And then you have like the final battle at the end. Other than that, it's very much just character story of the characters. And with this, it's like kind of the same, but you're just able to do so much more.
The virtual camera work, you can get right in, you can fly all over the place. Exactly, if you do exaggerated action, it's awesome. Yeah.
So what did you end up giving Predator Killer of Killers?
I went with a 4.5. I toyed with a 5, I'll be honest with you. But I'm like, I can't quite give it a 5. But it definitely is right up there. I think I told you even, I'm like, while the first Predator is always going to be, I think, the best one.
Yeah.
this one gives it a run for its money. And in terms of just the pure action, just look at the action, I think this is actually better.
I am inclined to agree with you. I also gave it 4.5. Like I said, it's like a high 4.5. It's like a 92, 93% kind of range. And I agree with you as well. It's right there up against Predator as the best representation of a Predator film and what it aims to do and how it utilizes it and succeeds in every aspect of it. And once again, a lot of people, it took a lot of people just get to watch Prey because it was on Hulu. Now they got a little bit more kind of openness to it. But with there being a Predator movie, Badlands, coming out later this year, I think a lot of people don't really know, A, that this movie's around, and B, once again, oh, it's Hulu, I'll wait for the one in theaters. Like, no, you need to check this out.
Oh, I've been out there evangelizing. I've been telling everybody to watch this. I'm getting mad because I'm watching Letterboxd and not seeing more people watch it. I'm like, watch the fucking movie, people.
Well, it's because once again, it's on Hulu, and people just don't. And that's the thing is, like, of these streaming films, yes, everyone gravitates to Netflix and Max and all this kind of stuff, but we've always been saying Hulu always quietly has some of the better streaming films. I mean, Boss Level, Palm Springs. There's many, many more that
no one will save you.
No one will save you. And it's always one of those things where it's like we always kind of just look at like Hulu, like, yeah, okay. But then at least once every year, once every other year, Hulu drops one that's just like, fuck, okay, Hulu. If this would have been released in theaters, it would have been so much better, but cool, Hulu, you got it. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, we all need to kind of just start giving Hulu a little bit more respect with their original films. Because Netflix is like, I'm trying to say, like, Netflix is like McDonald's. They're going to shuffle out 50 to 100 movies a year, and maybe 5 of them are worth watching, or like, hey, you guys should check this out.
A couple of them would be awesome, but it's just there's so much crap you got to wade through to find them.
Yeah, it's just like, look, like I'm gonna go to Netflix because everyone knows go to Netflix. It's like McDonald's. I'm gonna get fries. I'm gonna get nuggets. I'm gonna go that. But like once every while, it's like, damn, they really did good today. Like those fries were great and all this kind of stuff. And then you've got Hulu over here, which is like, I'll eat there every once in a while. But then every time you're like, why don't I eat here more? Like, this is great. But no, I'm gonna see him keep going to McDonald's every day. Go eat Hulu. Hulu's great. And Predator, a killer of killers, is gonna be one of our surprises of the year, but it's also probably gonna be in our top 10. Once again, if we make it through the rest of the year, we got 6 months now coming up, and Predator Killer Killers is not both in our top 10. We had a really great rest of the year. But it's gonna be one of those.
I mean, because it's toyed. I can't even figure out where to rank it in my so far for the year. I mean, it's definitely top 5, but it's at times I've thought maybe number 1. I can't decide where to put this thing. Because like I said, because not only is the action great and the animation's great, but I even love just the character work, like the two I don't know if they're brothers or the two people in the Japan.
They're brothers.
And are they brothers? Okay. And then the relationship between the mother and son in the Viking one. It's just like the characters alone. I think the character work is kind of overshadowed obviously by the action. But even that's well done. And so this is a great film.
Yeah. Really. So definitely check that out. Let's jump a little bit into spoiler real quick here. We're not going to be on this one as long as Ballerina. But for anyone who has not seen Predator Killer Killers, pause this or jump ahead to the next film. Come back and talk about it with us once you've seen it. But definitely go check out Predator Killer Killers on Hulu. You will not be disappointed. So here's your spoiler tag. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I think the Viking one definitely was really, really solid. I loved the kind of sonic blast that the Predator had. I thought that was a unique new approach for it. And I love how the Viking used that to their advantage. But that's because that's one thing they always do with Predator films is eventually whoever is the human is going to kind of figure out how to use the Predator's weaponry against the Predator. And with this, it's not like, oh, I knocked the weapon off, I'm just going to use it to kill it. It's like, no, this Predator's going to still keep using it, but how can I use the environment to my advantage? And I really, really loved the whole like ice water aspect of it with the sonic boom kind of thing. But yeah, that Predator was fucking awesome. I love
it. No, I mean, because it kind of had that Viking feel to it. Because he was like you said, like a big like tank kind of version of the Predator. And to have him fighting against her and the son, in that environment. I think it added something new we haven't seen to it before. I even like just the little touches, like when she was in the water, she's like trying to keep her lips over that one hole in the ice,
the air bubble. Yeah.
That I was surprised that they killed off the son. Since we're in spoiler territory, I was like, wow, damn, didn't think they were going to go there. But of course, there's a reason for it, because it comes back to be her kind of motivation when you come to the final act, which is the main reason we go into spoiler territory to talk about that one. But yeah, that Viking section was awesome.
Yeah, then stroll right into the Japan story. I love that basically all up to like the final minute, this is a silent film, silent dialogue film.
Yeah, there's a small bit of dialogue at the beginning, and then a small bit at the end, and everything in between is basically silent film.
Yeah, I loved that he did it that way, because once again, the main thing about ninjas and all is their stealthness, their quietness to this. And so to have this kind of story being told about these two brothers who were raised to become warriors, one of them shows mercy, the other one doesn't, and because of that, they have gone on two different paths. But the one who showed mercy is the stronger fighter of the two. And then we get this awesome predator with some great weaponry. That like scorpion-esque kind of weaponry, which I thought was so fucking cool. But what I love is that, like, even as we got to them being adults, these brothers are still at odds. But one is more like, you're my enemy, and the other one is more like, you're still my brother, but I need to one-up you because I need to prove that I'm the better fighter. Whereas the other one is more, I need to take you out. And then knowing that they have to put that shit aside to fight this predator, that final fight was amazing. I loved the hell out of that. And I think all of us at that one point when we thought the predator was done and they started facing off, I'm like, are you guys serious? What? No. Not you, don't fight. Wait, stop. And then you're like, oh, and it was such a badass moment.
That's cool. It would suck though if, like, you know, one of them misinterpreted the look, and like one of them actually did kill the predator, and the other one actually killed the other guy. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were doing that.
I wondered that too. It's like, did they take the other one out? Which, I mean, it granted in a minute later the other one died, but that would have been such a fucked up, like, oh,
I didn't know we were doing that. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying let's do this.
But yeah, I mean, but even that whole segment, like even with the action, or even just when they first met up again as adults, to be able to convey everything they did with no dialogue, just with glances, with looks, and in animation that's so hard to do, with trying to give emotion and things to the eyes. And I just thought that was so well done. And as far as the action, because we've never gotten the ninja movie that I visioned in my head, because I'm one of those people who, like, since I was like 7 years old, I was fucking obsessed with ninjas, right? And I love ninjas, and like they've come out with ninja movies. Like there's some really cheesy 81s. They came with was a Ninja Assassin, I think, in the 2000s, which I really hoped would be the movie I wanted it to be. And in some ways it was, but in a lot of ways it wasn't. I'm like, but this one, I think I loved the way they portrayed the ninja. They did the action, and to have him going against a samurai. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
I don't know what you're talking about. There was a fantastic ninja trilogy from the 90s called Three Ninjas that you just did not give its fair shake.
Oh, well, I'm not sure which is worse. I thought you were going to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but
no, because they're mutants. I went with Three Ninjas. No, Three Ninjas is not good. It's nostalgia great. So, and then we go to the World War II, and I think, like I said, that one took us a little while more to get into because it was more of an aerial battle. But I think, like I said, on second viewing, knowing what it was going to be, I was able to appreciate it more.
Well, that's just it, because I think that the third one, I'm like, okay, this is good, but it's not as good as after those other two. You're kind of like, okay, this one's not quite living up to the other two.
I was like, are we really going to end it with this one?
Even
like,
though
this
it has some cool aerial combat and stuff, I'm like, this is it's going to go. But of course, then you see
in the middle.
But then that third one, that is basically, I think, more setting up the character of I forgot his name, honestly.
It's Torres. It's
Torres. Setting up him for the role he's going to play in the fourth act.
Yeah, which and this is the only one that had people that I knew name wise, because Torres is played by Rick Gonzalez, who's a young actor that I really enjoy and a lot of stuff he's in. And then, like I said, the callback to the ancestral AVP person, Michael Biehn plays Vandy. Even though he sounds a lot like Michael Rooker.
I just looked different than him. I didn't realize that was him that did the voice.
Yeah, he sounds like Michael Rooker in this, but it's Michael Biehn, which I was like, hey, yeah.
I knew Michael Biehn. I was talking about, I didn't realize it was Rick Gonzalez. But yeah.
Oh, Rick. Yeah,
Michael Biehn. Because I had seen when I clicked on, I saw Michael Bihn's name listed. I'm like, okay, it's cool to have him in there. And then the whole movie, I'm like, where's Michael Biehn? And then as soon as he starts talking, I'm like, okay, there he is. But yeah, he was the only one I recognized by name. So yeah.
Yeah, no, Rick Gonzalez. I heard his voice, and I was like, oh, that's Rick. I was like, but I like him. He's a younger actor. I put him and like Anthony Ramos. Now, Anthony Ramos is a stronger actor, but I would love to watch those two work together. I think they would have a good, dude, that'd be a really cool like buddy comedy. Those two, that would be awesome. But yeah, I love the aerial fighting that we got out of that. Like I said, the uniqueness of it, and especially after Mission Impossible just came out, Torres is like, I'm gonna get out of the plane and try to fix it.
Just like, I started thinking first, the thing I thought was Mission Impossible, but then I'm also thinking like when you saw him on the wing of Mission Impossible and how the wind was, but he's just crawling around like it's nothing. I'm like, okay, Mission Impossible might have kind of ruined this scene for me.
Maybe those planes didn't go as fast. I don't know. But I was just like, okay, like this probably would hit better if Mission Impossible had not just came out.
Right.
But like I said, it was a great scene. And then we all knew that after each individual story, they were basically being captured. And
yeah,
so
we're putting
like,
them together. And the first time they showed, when they went from the Viking to, when they showed her, and then when they went and then showed the ninja guy.
Ninja, yeah.
Like on the same ship with the collar. I'm like, what? Wait, we're doing time travel now? What the fuck's going on here? And of course, we later realized that's not what's going on. But yeah,
yeah. And so we basically get their individuals of like, how did they get to this point? Which I would have liked a better, like, I guess if I have to nitpick at something, we saw it with Torres, but I would have liked to have seen a better like. So how did they get on the fuck? How did they get captured? Because we just watching them look like they're kind of like, oh, I won, and then all of a sudden. Collar, they're on a plane. Like, wait, what the fuck?
Well, that's my thing. Is did they send a second ship with another predator back to the same location as this one went to? I don't know.
And even then, like at least with Torres just kind of accepted his fate. He was like, all right, fuck it. Yeah, he didn't try to. Yeah, he didn't try to fight or anything. Like, did they do the same thing? Did they try to continue to fight? I would have liked to have seen what they did there. But yeah, it looked like they were just kind of like jumping through time and grabbing these warriors. But basically, what they did is they captured them and they put them in like hypersleep. Which makes me wonder, why did they grab this guy from this time frame and this guy, and then put them all together in this one fight? Unless it's just kind of like them picking something out of the freezer, like, oh yeah, let's go. With
I think that's the way I looked at it was because they're clearly like hypersleep or cryogenic or whatever it is they're doing. Yeah. So essentially, by the time you hit the final act, it's at least 1941. For all we know, it could be 2300. We don't know when the last one takes place, but it's at least 1941. So the Viking person's been there for. 1,200 years or something.
Yeah, at least.
But the way I look at it is that they have been collecting people through all of time, and then just every once in a while they pull out 3 of them and put them in the arena together. And it's just the anthology is just they told the backstory of the 3 they happen to choose for this battle.
Yeah. And so basically they basically get thrown into this arena, this gladiator arena, and this. I don't know if he's like the king predator or just like the dominus predator if we're going gladiator aspect of this.
What it is.
Yeah. And it's just like, y'all fight each other. Whoever survives gets to fight me. Which if you're a predator, I would think wouldn't you want to fight all 3? Kind of thing. But I guess maybe they're going like, well, look, these guys have killed predators before. I ain't about to go on a 3-on-1 fight against them.
Let them wound each other first before I have to fight one of them. Yeah.
Exactly. Which kind of takes away from the badassness of the Predator, that they want that cheapness to it. But I love the moment when they were all getting their weapons and Torres just got this little fucking pistol, which apparently is a callback to Predator 2. I guess that was one of the guns that I think that's the gun that like Danny Glover grabs when he's on the Predator ship.
Yeah. Which it's when you see them leave and pray.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought that was
like, this isn't even from my century.
I don't even know how to use this. But like that fourth, you said that did the 4th act work for you in that respect? Like this whole 4th story?
No, it did. I think it brought everything together beautifully. It's just I didn't realize that's where it was going. I thought it was just going to be an anthology of these stories. I mean, of course, once they started showing them kind of imprisoned or whatever, I'm like, okay, is this just a weird way to do transition? I didn't know what it was. And then of course
part of me almost wondered, and granted this is me just thinking too much like James Gunn DC, it's like, are we setting these all up to be in a film? Like, okay, you guys know this is the Viking, here's this guy, these are going to be like another Predators movie where they get dropped in the Predators thing. It's like, and then I was like, oh no, we're continuing it on. Okay, because I thought it was just like that, it was an anthology, and it's like, are we going to get a sequel where this is either the live action and it's them playing these characters, or are we going to get another movie that's going to be kind of like their film. Instead, we just get a whole, basically each section is like 20 minutes. It's basically like a 20, 25 minute, section of each one. But yeah, I thought it worked really well too, and leaves it open for them to continue, which I think you and I are both like.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us love the aspect of it being carried on like that, but I think we were both like, hey, this means we're getting another one.
Well, that's just it. I did like how the whole that last act worked out, because showing them how they had to work together, especially because nobody can communicate. I mean, he knew a little bit of Japanese from World War II training, but minimal. And then the Viking chick couldn't understand anybody, which is why she was like against them longer. And so I love that they were able to use that and figure out how to make them work together and everything, and got to the very end. And as I told you before, it's like, I'm not a big fan of non-endings and cliffhanger endings. It's like, you can have a continuing story, but give me an ending to this film, something that makes it at least feel like I watched a complete movie. And so in most cases, I'm not big on these kind of endings where it's like, okay, we'll tune in next week to see what happens. But I'm willing to give this one a pass because, like you said, it was kick-ass, and it means that we'll get more. So
yeah. And then of course the big teaser at the end is that the Viking woman stays behind. They put her, instead of killing her, they put her back in cryo sleep. And as they're putting her back basically on the shelf, we see Amber Midthunder, and basically telling us all, and she survived the prey, but she didn't escape. Like she got taken, which makes me also wonder, what about Dutch? And
why did they come back and capture them?
Yeah, did they not do that with Dutch? Did they not do that? They definitely didn't do that with Danny Glover, because they let him leave.
They can't do that in live action because Arnold Schwarzenegger is still so much older.
Well, you can't do it with Danny Glover either.
Well, no, but I'm just as an example. But just think though, if in this next film,
animated,
they thaw out and fucking Dutch is there too. Oh my god, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be sweet. But that was like just the one thing is like, well, what about all the live action Predators? Which, granted, Prey just did that, but it's like, okay, well, what about Dutch? What about Danny Glover? What about I'm trying to remember, was it Adrian Brody?
Adrian Brody, and then
all of them. It's like, are we going to see them all come back in animated form? Because you just established something here. So, like, what are we doing?
Anytime we get defeated, that person is like, a great warrior, so we're gonna take them.
Well, yeah, it seemed like, especially with Predator 2, when he was on their ship, they're like, look, you won, leave. Because they let Danny Glover just go. But it's like, well, okay, well, you should have done that with Amber Midthunder's character as well. So, what about the others? What about the ones in Predator? Clearly, they didn't grab freaking Jacob Tremblay and Joel. Not Joel. Was it Joel Kinnaman? No, it wasn't Joel Kinnaman.
It's I always blank out of his name.
Dude from Logan.
Yeah, go ahead and talk. I'll look it up.
But yeah, they didn't grab them because they're at a secret base coming up with Predator mechs and Predator weapons and shit like that. So
wait, hold on.
Yeah, there you go. So it's like the concept of that was cool, but then it makes us go, wait, what about all this? Or is this a different tribe?
But also, to me, like I said, I didn't even think about that aspect of it till as we're talking now. And to me, the aspect of, well, wait, what about that is promising, because I would love to see them put an animated Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime into this group. Oh, hell yeah.
Just a Predator All-Stars fight. That'd be pretty sweet. Anything else you'd like to add for Predator before we jump to the next movie?
No, just any of you, well, you're watching the spoiler sections, hopefully you've already watched it, but any of you who haven't watched it, go fucking watch this movie and tell everyone you know to watch this movie, because I want more of these, because it was fucking awesome.
Yeah. Jumping into our next film, it's The Life of Chuck. This was a film that I think for the most part, Brian and I went in with little to no explanation of what this movie is.
No, I think I had watched the trailer. I'm pretty sure I'd watched the trailer, but I didn't remember much of anything about it. And I think that's largely because I think the trailer was very cryptic and didn't really tell what it was about.
Yeah, the trailer's vague as shit, which is great. I wish more movies were like that, instead of, hey, here's everything. It's like, oh god, there was a trailer. Granted, your argument here makes sense, but they just dropped the trailer for the second Wicked film, and I was like, I feel like they just gave almost the entire fucking film away. But then you're claiming no, they left a lot of it out. But I was like, I feel like they just gave up some like big story plots and and all this kind of stuff. But if they just did more trailers like Life of Chuck, where it's like, yeah, here's basically the characters in the movie, but I have no idea what the hell's going on, and enjoy. But the big hooks here for us, or at least for me, is once this was Stephen King's story, but it was also directed by Mike Flanagan. And Mike Flanagan has quickly become one of my favorite directors in Hollywood, especially when it comes to the horror aspect of things.
Especially for me when he did Stephen King.
Exactly. Dr. Sleep.
Gerald's Game. Yeah.
And what?
Gerald's Game.
And Gerald's Game. God damn it, the other one I'm blanking on. With his wife, she's like a mute. Hush. I wanted to say a host, and I knew that wasn't right.
Stephen King though. But...
No, I know. I'm talking about Flanagan.
Okay.
And obviously you have the Netflix series of The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor and Midnight Mass and Midnight Club, and lately the house.
Well, the house.
I never say it right because there's always like an extra word I leave out. But Flanagan has become this awesome horror director, but this definitely wasn't a horror film. So I don't know if I ever saw Flanagan do a non-horror type of film before. It's got a great cast around it. You got Tom Hiddleston, you got Matthew Lillard, you got Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, Jacob Tremblay. Cast goes on and on from there. But yeah, we literally went into this with pretty much no concept of what this movie was about, which honestly made me more intrigued to check it out and made me feel more like the characters of the first section, because it's like, who the fuck is Chuck? Like, what does this mean? Kind of thing. But why don't you go ahead into this one first as well? What were your thoughts of Life of Chuck? Because you saw it before I did.
Yeah, I got to see this. They did one of those screen unseen things at AMC, and I found out it was gonna be Life of Chuck, so I went and saw it. And I went in, like I said, with really no expectations beyond the pedigree behind it, beyond director, beyond Stephen King, the cast. Because I mean, in addition to the ones you listed, there's also David Dastmalchian, there's Mark Hamill, there's Mia Sara, her first movie in like 15 years. I was so happy to see her on screen. And Heather Langenkamp randomly on there too, from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah, I saw it took me a second to realize I was her, and I was like, what?
Well, it's funny because Mia Sara came on screen, and it took me a couple seconds. I'm like, wait, is that Mia Sara? I'm like, it is. That's awesome. I love seeing her back on screen. And then like a couple scenes later, Heather Langenkamp shows up, and I'm like, I know this person. Why do I know this person? Who is this person? I'm like, I think I picture them younger, so I'm trying to figure out who they are. And then finally, like 3 minutes later, I'm like, oh, okay. That's
yeah, that was the thing is that they made her older in the movie, and I was like, she's not that old, is she?
I mean, she's older, obviously, but she's
but not like that old. Yeah,
but so beyond knowing, the cast and stuff, I didn't know anything about this movie, and I went and saw it, and throughout that whole first act, well, Act 3, I kind of felt just like the characters. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Are you trying to figure out? It's very unsettling, but you can kind of feel the anxiety of all the characters because everything's changing. They don't know what's going on as kind of things are deteriorating. Both the infrastructure and people are all losing their minds, and so I'm kind of like, okay, this is interesting. I'm very curious to see where this is going. I'm loving. The one thing I'll say up front is I've said in my Letterboxd review, I love every individual scene of this movie. I think every scene of it, the performances, the writing, everything about it is wonderful. I love the way it's done. So especially through the whole first section, was really enjoying all that stuff. And then that act ends, and you're kind of like, wait, I don't understand what's going on here. That's the end of this section, and it just moves on to another section, which clearly must take place. That's why they number them separately. It's like this is Act 3, then it goes backwards to Act 2, because you're like, okay, wait, what's going on? Then they bring in the Tom Hiddleston section, and same thing. It's essentially one extended scene, that second act. And
it really is.
And as you can see from the trailers, even the poster, it's got this great dance scene with Tom Hiddleston along with this other girl who joins in. And then there's the girl drumming. I think she does a great job as well. And then it's just, for somebody who loves like musicals, I was loving the hell out of this. I love the dancing. I love the music. I love the way it was filmed, everything about it. But again, that one ends, and they move on to the last act. And I'm like, okay, I still don't know what the fuck is going on here. I mean, I had some kind of guesses in my mind by that point, but I was a little confused, but not in a bad way. I was intrigued. I was interested. So they get into the third act where they kind of try and pull it all together, and you're kind of learning what's going on. And it's pretty early on. You can.
Yeah, I think pretty much when he talked to the teacher, I was like, oh, I think I've got what's going on.
You start hearing callbacks and things. You're like, okay, now I know what's going on, or at least you have a solid hypothesis of what is going on. Which turned out to be essentially correct. But you watch it and okay, now they're pulling all together. And while again, I still loved every scene and every performance and everything of that last act, by the time the movie ended, I just didn't quite feel like it stuck the landing. I kind of was stuck with like, it didn't quite all congeal as a solid film for me in all of it. I loved all the individual parts, just the sum of the parts didn't quite gel for me. And I can't put my finger on exactly what it is about it. But
do you think if they melded act one, but really the final act, if they had melded that one in between the two other acts, that it maybe would have flowed better? Because those two were the more fun, interesting parts. And if you would have like maybe flowed in effectively what the third act is in between them, and then bookended it the way they bookended it, do you think that would have helped it better? Or?
Well, I think for me personally, this is just my opinion of how I took it, is that I would have loved to see a whole movie of what was going on in that first act.
That first act very much was something of like Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits. It's the one aspect that is, it's not horror, but it's horror-esque to a point. Which and it's done fantastically. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, Matthew Lillard, dude, I didn't know you had that in you.
Right?
Matthew Lillard has this phenomenal scene. And I love that dude, but I did not. And I was like, damn, man, have you just been kind of bullshitting through your career? Because if you had that in you this whole time, where the fuck's that been for like the past 20 plus years? Because
I understand that he, back in the day after Scream and stuff, he was essentially getting, kind of typecast in that kind of character. But he's had those 20 years since then where he hasn't really shown up in a lot. He pops up here and there. It's like, you should have been doing more of this kind of stuff. Now, granted, that's maybe they just wouldn't cast him because people only saw him as the Matthew
exactly. People wouldn't give him that opportunity, but hopefully, because he knocks that scene out of the park.
But yeah, first act, I would love to see. The second act, I don't know how to make a whole movie of that, but just I guess more following the Tom Hiddleston's Chuck's character as an adult as Chuck. I think, or even if you showed like if you did weave together the younger Chuck sections from part 1, part 3, whatever you want to call it, the last section of the film, and shown more life of Chuck, I think I would have loved, because I loved spending time with that character, and you kind of see like the joy in his eyes when he's dancing, he's thinking back to his grandma taught him, all that kind of stuff. It would have been a ton of fun. For me, the whole conceit of it, the reveal of what is actually happening, I didn't really love that. I'm kind of like, I understand what they're going for, and I guess it kind of works for what they wanted. It's just I don't really care about this whole weird thing they have going on. And so for me, that last act, I wouldn't say it disappointed me. It just, I guess I wanted it to go differently. I didn't want that to be where it ended up going. But that just is my own personal taste. But for me, that it's like almost every Stephen King adaptation is notorious for not having great endings. I mean, they even reference it in It Chapter 2. Stephen King himself talks about an author can't do endings. But I still, like I said, I loved everything about it. It just, as a complete film, it didn't quite reach the same heights as the individual parts.
So what'd you end up giving it?
I ended up on a 4.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with pretty much almost everything that you said. Act 1 or Act 3, the first one is so confusing. The first act of the film with Chiwetel and Karen and all them is easily the best part. It's the most intriguing. It's the most interesting. It's the most like, what the fuck is going on? But I can't not be interested in what's going on. And like you said,
for me, the first part is the best part of the 3. The second part, the dance, is the best scene for me. But as a complete section, the first section is the strongest. Yes, I'm
100% with you on that. I think the first part is the best acting, it's the best intriguing story, and it's the most I want to continue to be in this world because I want to see what the hell's going on. Act 2 with Hiddleston, granted they keep like the posters show him like doing a dance move and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, it's probably him just like walking by just doing this. I did not expect like a 5 to 7, almost 10-minute long dance sequence that we get with Hiddleston in this, and it is joyful and amazing. And I remember like
the whole time,
I was smiling the whole time too because I was like, you're watching it, and you're like, oh, so you're talking about a drummer girl, and then here comes Hiddleston, and like, all right, where's it going? And then he starts dancing. I'm like, I didn't know I needed this, and I'm so happy this is happening. I love everything about this moment, and it is one of my favorite scenes of the year. Just watching Hiddleston, it's one of those things where it's like Hiddleston. We know him obviously as Loki, which is like this, stoically but also funny, but kind of depressing kind of guy. And we haven't really gotten Hiddleston in a lot of other things. Like we do, but not like establish him. Like we got King Kong Skull Island, but he hasn't really like. I feel like he hasn't really like established himself as what he is. Like people know who Ryan Reynolds is, people know who Chris Hemsworth and all them are, but like I don't think we've ever really figured out who Hiddleston is yet as like an actor, a performer. And watching him do this, I was just like, I could watch Hiddleston do this for the rest of his career. I would love him kind of be like this new.
If you watch interviews with him or watch him doing impressions of every single actor in Hollywood, or watch all this stuff, is you realize there's so much to him that I would love to see in more movies. But because they won't let Loki stay dead, they keep pulling him back, and he doesn't have time to do these other movies.
It makes me more intrigued to see what Hiddleston is capable of.
Yeah, I was surprised actually how little he was in this movie. Because
he's not in it barely at all.
Like again, we said essentially one scene, which my understanding, but then beyond that, he only like appears like briefly in other parts, and he's essentially laying there silent. And so, I think I saw an interview with him where he talked about he only worked for like 5 days. He did like 4 days. They did the second act of the dance sequence, and then 1 day of the other stuff. And it's like, I hope nobody went into this movie looking for a Tom Hiddleston movie, because they'll be disappointed.
Probably because he's all the marketing. He's literally the whole marketing. I would say if you're going like, well, who's the star of this movie? I would say it's probably Benjamin Pajak, who plays young Chuck in the third final act. He definitely has, I feel like, the most screen time. He's on screen the most. First off, the kid is amazing. I thought he was great in the movie. He's definitely one of those. I was like, I don't know who you are, but you're kind of. Honestly, he reminded me of young Jacob Tremblay. He's a young kid actor who takes control of the scene, and you're just captivated by his performance all the way throughout. And then when Tremblay shows up, I'm like, that was really all you were in? Like, first off, he's in that awkward phase where it's like, this is how you look now? Where he finally was like, okay, now we know what he looks like, kind of thing. Kind of like when Freddie, Highmore? Yeah, we're like, oh, he's this young kid. And then he had that awkward teenage phase. And it's like, okay, now we know what he looks like now as an adult. I think Tremblay is in that position right now where he just comes in, he just looks awkward. But yeah, the third or final act of the film, I think it is a really well done story. I think it's well acted throughout. But much like how we kind of felt with Predator Killer of Killers, I feel like, once again, it's like before the fourth act happened in Predator Killer, I'm like, you really ended it on the weakest one. And it's not necessarily weak, it's just not as strong or as captivating as Hiddleston or the first part of the film. And so it does kind of just end. And that's why I kind of feel like maybe if they interweaved it in between the other acts, or maybe it started with that and then went into the first part and then a little bit and then Hiddleston and then trailed off with it, maybe it would have flowed better. I understand what they were doing. I understand.
I feel like it was kind of classic Stephen King, from where it's like that he wants to keep the mystery to the end of what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think that in this, it might have worked better if you, like you said, they had weaved it in to kind of knew what was going on, but you could still watch it unravel. Or
I mean, you could still keep that mystery on at the end, not knowing what's going on. But then they could have even maybe elaborated on it a little bit more or explained it a little bit more at the end, because at that point we've gone an hour or so since we've been like, oh yeah, act one, that's what this is. And kind of maybe, like as he was doing his final monologue, they like weaved them in once again, just structure-wise, could have been a little bit better, because like it definitely felt like one of those Stephen King short stories where it's like there's a concept here, it's not fully fleshed, but it's there. And I agree with you that the individual scenes, these individual performances in these, are some of the best performances and well-acted scenes this year. Coming together as a whole, it's good. It could have been great. And that has nothing to do with Flanagan as a director. It's more the structure of how Stephen King wrote this. And like you said, Stephen King does have a hard problem ending. And I think in terms of ending, this is not a bad ending. I just think the structure of it could have been rearranged to have made it a lot stronger or impactful than what they were intending. I also gave it 4 stars. I liked a lot of it. I wasn't like upset or pissed off with how they ended it. It was just one of those like, they could have done better.
Same. I wasn't upset or pissed off at it. I'm just like, it's not what I would have liked to have ended.
But yeah, in terms of, like I said, performances, Matthew Lillard, Benjamin Pajak, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, you
had a lot of the Mike Flanagan regulars. Like, of course, there's White Steele's in there. There are a couple others I recognize, and I didn't realize. I was just looking at the cast list. Nick Offerman, of course, is the narrator, but also it's doing voice only roles. Carla Gugino was a news and commercial voice. There's a couple of people I didn't realize were in this movie. Lauren Lavera from Terrifier movies. She apparently was Italian reporter voice. I had no idea. Okay, I
definitely didn't know that one. Yeah. But yeah, definitely with Life of Chuck, it is, like I said, it's the least. It's definitely a different take on Mike Flanagan as a director, because we've never seen him do a film like this or a show like this technically before. So it's definitely nice to see him do something a little different, even though I would love him to still stay in the horror realm. But yeah, if you're a fan of Mike Flanagan or any of these actors, you should check this out. Just temper your expectations when you get to the end of the film. Going to our next film, we have Dangerous Animals. This is another one of those, I like to call them B-movie Shudder horror films, which, once again, though, these have actually kind of been working. Like Late Night with the Devil last year and stuff like that. This is one of those like, it's getting a theatrical release, but it's really a Shudder horror film.
Well, that's the thing, is that Shudder is another one. They put out a ton of movies. Now, I don't think they make them. I think a lot of them are acquired, but they Shudder originals, kind of like when Netflix acquires something and calls it Netflix original. It's like, no, you bought it. Come on, motherfucker. but Shudder is another one that pumps out quantity, and there's a lot of crap out there. But then there's always a few really good ones that kind of stand out. And they usually tend to be the ones that they give at least a small theatrical release to. So when I saw this one coming out, and then in the trailer, it really intrigued me, largely because of Jai Courtney, which we'll get into. But yeah, this is one I was interested in seeing.
But yeah, the general concept for Dangerous Animals is you have this. What do you call it? Is he's a shark cage tour guide? Like, I don't. How do you verbalize what his job is?
Yeah, I don't. Tour guide is not quite the right word, but I don't know.
He takes people. He people come to his boat. He takes them out to sea. He puts them in a shark cage so they can swim with the sharks.
Yeah,
that's basically what his job is. And his name's Tucker, played by Jai Courtney. But what we don't realize is that what he does do is that, which also bad business plan. First off, how do you keep getting people coming to you? But unless he takes their phones and like puts the reviews in it himself. But basically, he takes them out to sea, and then it seems like for the most part, he kidnaps the girls, and then will eventually basically feed them to the sharks, and then he videotapes them, and it's kind of like his serial killer concept.
Yeah, I think he has enough of an actual business that it keeps going, and then I think it's like the ones that he looks for the ones that like oh, nobody knows you're out here kind of thing, and then you're alone or you don't have anybody else that's going to come looking for you. Those are the ones that he will
Yeah, he doesn't like attack a family, but like, oh, these are tourists, or people. I think the introductory people, they're foreigners who were staying at like a hostel or something like that. So he's like, oh, okay, well, yes, you fuckers, no one's gonna know if you're missing, kind of thing. But that's basically the concept of the story. Then we follow the main girl, played by Hassie Harrison, and basically she's the final girl in this, and she gets captured, and then that's basically what the stories are trying to survive Jai Courtney from basically turning her into shark food. But yeah, the main hook for this is for me, sharks. but yeah, is A, the shark aspect of it, but also Jai Courtney, he's another actor who I first saw him. I think I feel like most people saw him for the first time the same way I did, which was on Spartacus. He played Spartacus's best friend in the first season, and he was so good in that. And a very emotional moment for him on the last moments of that series for him. And then, he kind of like, oh, he's big. And then he just kind of kept showing up in things, but he wasn't really great. And then he's Captain Boomerang, which, he was solid in that. And then he was in the Die Hard movie that we shall not name, which he was not great in.
The Die Hard movie. I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. But his career hasn't really elevated the way I thought it was going to be when I saw him on Spartacus. But in this, he looks like he's going full Wild Bill from Silence of the Lambs, and he looks like he is just having so much fun in this role. Which, just by the trailers alone, you can either watch that trailer and go, ugh, or you can go, I have to see this just to see what he does in this movie. Hasty Harrison, I know her from Tacoma FD, which are the Broken Lizard guys' like firefighter show. She plays the daughter of Farva in that, and she's great in that. She's also in Yellowstone. She's not a big part in Yellowstone, but she's on Yellowstone. So I knew her prior to this. She's a decent actress. I think this is her first film that she actually was probably the lead on. I think she does a okay job in this. I don't think but this is, once again, this movie's not going to blow you away in terms of what the film is. It's just more, this is one of those kind of Shudder horror films. Were you entertained through this film? Would you recommend this film? And, it's not going to be on any best of lists by any means. And I will say, for me, when it comes to Dangerous Animals, I actually had fun with this film. I was captivated throughout. Jai Courtney is awesome in this movie. I think he is a great villain in this. I love that they give him plenty of screen time in this movie. Hasty Harrison, she's all right in the film, but I wasn't expecting like this, revolutionary performance from her. Could have had some more sharks. I think they could have done a little bit more of Tucker like success stories in this. I think they could have had him like kind of maybe do a few before it goes into the main story, just to kind of show more sharks in this aspect and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't crazy about the other male lead, Josh Houston. He just seemed like a very generic, like Disney Channel, like, oh, let's just get him in this movie. I don't think he's a Disney Channel kid or anything like that, but he didn't really do much for me in this. But I think for what it was, I had fun with it. I gave it 3.5. I had fun with the story. I'm glad I checked it out. It's definitely one of those, like, it's on Shudder, so I'll probably never see it on anything else. But if it was like on TV, I would totally just leave it on because I had fun with Jai Courtney in this movie. What were your thoughts?
I went into this with no real expectations. Like I said, it looked fun, but it's Shudder, which could be really hit and miss. So I'm like, I'll check it out. Sure, why not? Jai Courtney is one of those people who it's like that Sam Worthington kind of thing, where he came out and Hollywood tried to shove him down your throat. Like, here's your next leading man. You're gonna like him, goddammit. They put him in a major role in Die Hard, and they put him in a major role in Terminator Genesis, and they try and shove him down your throats as like the next it guy, leading role. And people are like, no thanks, we don't want this. But it's because he does much better when he's not playing a leading man. When he pops up in a small role in Suicide Squad, when he pops up in a supporting role in Jack Reacher, the Tom Cruise one, he was great. And then in this, where he just gets to just have fun, because he's clearly having a blast, because he's playing this guy who not only is kind of this just wild Australian guy, but he's fucking bonkers, and he's having so much fun. And I enjoyed the hell out of him and his character. The opening prologue I thought was really well done, both in terms of just like the suspense of it and kind of how you see that switch flip, when you realize that he's, this killer, and how he takes care of that, and how sadistic he is in what he does. And I even honestly, in that opening prologue, even the cinematography, like the way they were filming, like the ocean and the sharks, I thought was really well done. I'm like, damn, this is actually going to be a pretty good movie. After the prologue, for me, it kind of slowed down quite a bit. Hasty, is it Hasty or Hasty? I don't even know.
Hasty or Hasty? I don't know. It's probably Hassie.
From the first scene, it's almost like they try to make her unlikable for the first scene. And for me, that kind of lasted the whole movie. I didn't really like her much. I think I said in my review, I wouldn't mind if she got eaten by the sharks because she's kind of annoying the hell out of me. But it's fine. You got to have your final girl. What I did find distracting, though, is I don't know if this is true in the other stuff because I watched Coen PD in that. She looks a lot like young Jennifer Lawrence, and she sounds exactly like young Jennifer Lawrence. And I found that
I saw you write that. I don't see it.
Oh, I saw it the entire movie. I was like almost picture my head Jennifer Lawrence in this role. So it's a little distracting for me, but that didn't take away from it. Just something I observed. But the movie after that prologue, I thought was good. It's kind of fine for, like you said, a kind of fun thing you watch on a weekend. It shows up on TV. I'll watch it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It just didn't blow me away. It didn't kind of live up to that prologue where I was like, wow, this is going to be really good. And it turned out to be, it was decent fun for me. So I enjoyed it. I ended up just giving it 3 stars even.
Yeah. And I will say, like, in terms of, like, I think once they, like, start letting the final girl be a final girl and, like, fight back, it definitely does kick it up a notch. But there are, I think, I don't necessarily want it shorter, but, and like I said, this is where I think they could have, like, had Tucker kill more people, so that way you had the build up of how dangerous he is outside of just the one time. Because there's just certain parts where it's like, okay, she escapes, she gets caught. She escapes, she gets caught.
I was just going to say that. I was getting actively annoyed by that. I'm like, oh, she almost got away, but no, he got her again. Oh, wait, she's almost getting away. I caught her. I'm like, okay, come on, can we just?
Yeah, they probably could have cut at least, especially the one big thing she does, because it amounted to nothing.
Yeah,
she basically did that, and it didn't matter. It was just like, because at the end of it, I'm like, did her doing this one thing help her out? No, it really didn't. Except for maybe it helped the guy because she was able to, like, I guess, tend his wound, because he probably would have just died if she hadn't done that. But, like, I'm being vague. People are like, what? Like, but her doing this one drastic thing really amounted to nothing for her, which sucked. Like I said, I feel like they could have just done more of Tucker bringing people on, killing them, and stuff like that, and it just established him as more dangerous kind of thing, which they did. They did that well.
Because it really felt like with a number of escape attempts and a number of failures and things, I think that it almost felt like they're like trying to pad out the runtime because it's only like an hour and a half long, right?
Something like that. It's not. It's actually like an hour 40. Yeah, it's hour 40.
So, but if they've done a couple more, like, you could have, like, had her story going and then you can cut back to scenes with him with other victims, things like that.
He had more people in other rooms.
Yeah, and then eventually you get to her, and but I mean, I didn't dislike the movie because of that kind of extra stuff. It just kind of got a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, like I said, the male lead, I just did not care for his performance at all. All right, going to our main event. From the world of John Wick. I'm never going to call it that.
That is not part of the title. I will never call it that. It's so
stupid
that they turned
If you go to IMDb, it is called From the World of John Wick, but if you go to Letterboxd, it's just Ballerina.
Fuck that shit.
I'm not calling it From the World of John Wick.
I'm going to say this right up front.
Did they do that in the title card, or was it just Ballerina? I can't remember.
I don't recall. I don't think
I can't recall either. But it's just Ballerina, guys. This is a movie that Brian and I have both been anticipating, especially after Wick is Pain came out, which you guys should all check out on Vudu. It's only $10. It is well worth it if you're a big John Wick fan.
Like $7 or $8.
What's that?
Right now it's on sale for like $7.99 or something.
Oh, so it's even cheaper. So even more reason for you guys to check it out. This is a movie that we've been knowing about for. Wasn't it supposed to come out last year?
It's supposed to come out. Was it last year or was it earlier this year? I don't recall.
I thought it was last year and it got pushed.
I'll check it out.
But anyway, it's Ana de Armas. She's basically playing one of the ballerinas, which we first got introduced to in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, with Angelica Houston. That there's all these female basically John Wicks. What?
It's supposed to come out a year ago, June of 2024.
I was just saying, I thought it got pushed back to a full year. But basically, we're following the story of Eve. It's Eve Morocco. No, I can't remember what her last name is. IMDb just has Eve. I think it's like Morocco or Morocco.
Maccaro.
We're following the story for her, and basically, long story short, it's female John Wick. I mean, she's not trying to get revenge because her dog was killed. She's basically trying to get revenge because her father is killed in the prologue, and then she basically joins and I'm never going to say the name right, the ballerina group. I'm not going to. Thank you for saying that, because I'm never going to say that correctly. So we're first probably like 40 plus minutes of the movie. We're basically watching her train and get ready to become this assassin. And then the story kind of goes from there. I will say, in terms of people wanting to know the storyline or the timeline, this takes place during John Wick 3 and before John Wick Chapter 4. But I do have issues with that going into the spoiler aspect of it, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, what were your thoughts on it? I mean, because like I said, this was one of those, like, I don't think we went into this expecting it to be as good as John Wick. So I think we were just kind of like wanting it to at least like contend with it.
Well, that's just it, is because I've loved most of these, kick-ass female assassin or spies or whatever, this kind of whole subgenre, whether it be, Atomic Blonde or this, or, Old Guard, or it seems a lot of Charlize Theron.
Peppermint.
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed a lot of these kind of films. And then of course, then you connect to the John Wick universe, which of course is a good thing because we love John Wick. And it's not like they're just like, inventing the thing. Oh, there's these female assassins. It's like it's already been set up since the second film, I think it was. So it's already been set up that this organization, this group of these ballerinas, the Roscaroma, exists. So it's not like they're just pointing out of thin air. And then you have Ana de Armas, who, we both love just in general. And then of course, just to see her finally get to do some real action, because, obviously in No Time to Die, they fucking wasted her. She was the main reason I wanted to see that.
She has one awesome action sequence that basically introduced the world to her badassness, and then she left the movie.
Yeah, she's in the movie for like 10-15 minutes, and then that's it. So I mean, kind of get a glimpse of it, but then they wasted her there. And then you got she showed up in, like, what was that called, Ghosted, with Chris Evans, which I mean, she had some action scenes in that, but it was not a great movie. It was, it was fine. So then to see her get to be in this movie, I was really looking forward to this. And of course, when they pushed it back a year, which I had forgotten about, I was, I guess a little bit worried, because you never know when they're pushing something back that far, if it's, because of they're going to redo things or whatever, which there's been all kinds of rumors that like Chad Stahelski reshot the whole movie practically because Len Wiseman did such a bad job. It's all bullshit. It's been debunked, by the way. So if you're still thinking that, ignore it. So I was really looking forward to this movie. Went and saw it, and I really did enjoy this movie quite a bit. I think that the action is very well done. I think that she does a great job with it. I will say, in some of the earlier scenes, like in the like the nightclub, and then there was one scene before that too, I think that it felt a little stiff in terms of the action choreography and stuff, and that she was doing. But then again, I felt that way about some of the John Wick stuff even as well. So I don't really count against it. By the time you get to like the second half of the movie, though, it's like practically action for the whole second half of the movie, and it's fucking awesome. And
it basically is, she goes to a location, fight. She leaves that location, goes to another location, fight. And I'm like, does she ever get to go somewhere and not just get a fucking fight? Like, can she just rest?
And especially the third act, where she's basically in one town, and within that town, she goes to this location, fights, goes to this location, fights, goes to this location.
She literally cannot go from location to location without being attacked or fought throughout the entire second half of the film.
But it was just like solid action, and it was so well done. That was very creative, because they even established early in the film, because they addressed the elephant in the room, which so many other movies don't, which is like, this girl who weighs fucking 100 pounds or something is not going to be able to take out all these guys in hand-to-hand combat. Now, yes, a lot of times she uses weapons and stuff like that, but so many movies are just like, oh no, she's a kick-ass assassin, she can beat anybody. And it's like, no, they say up front, they're always going to be bigger than you, they're always going to be stronger than you. You have to, what do they say, you have to change the rules of engagement or whatever.
Yeah, change the rules.
And she does that. I mean, she finds, she just takes whatever she has, and she is creative with, whatever kind of weapons and makeshift things she can find. She's like, she's taping together weapons like some kind of fucking video game where you craft your own.
She's like a John Wick if he had MacGyver skills.
Right. Yeah. And then later on, she's got ice skates. And then of course, if you've seen all the trailers, when she gets the flamethrower fight, it's fucking awesome. So I love the creativity of it. I loved her in it. I loved everything about this except for John Wick himself. John Wick should not have been in this movie. I think that it felt like a crutch, like, oh, we have to put John Wick in this movie. And from what I understand, that's what the reshoots were, is to add more John Wick into it. So a lot of, I think the last act is what got added into it. Because he's in, I would say, what, 15, 20 minutes of the movie total?
If we're stop watching it, honestly, he's probably in there for a total of like 7-8 minutes, I would say.
I think it's probably a little more than that. But regardless, it's like early on, you kind of see him in passing, just to kind of show you you're in the same. We get the
connective tissue into John Wick.
Kind of sets up where you are in the universe, where you are in the timeline, and I was fine with that. And if that's all it was, that would have been great. But I think putting John Wick into a major section at the end, I'm like, you didn't need him. I think she and the action of the movie could have stood just fine on their own without needing to, be like, oh no, wait, we have John Wick too. You guys should come see this movie. And I think that's why they added that onto the title too, because it was never called From the World of John Wick Ballerina before, until like the last 2 months of marketing. All of a sudden that's on there, and I saw that in the posters. I'm like, no big deal. And then I realized, oh, they're trying to say that's the title of the movie. I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm never going to call it that. Because it's like you don't need that crutch. And I understand that they need to do what they need to do in marketing to get people in to make a movie make money, which this made decent money, but not as much as they were hoping. But I felt like having John Wick in there, actually, as much as I love him, I think it took away from the movie for me.
I am inclined to agree with you on the John Wick aspect. I think the first part that he was in establishes the time frame, establishes where we're at in the world, like you said, and I liked that scene. Now, the second act part, I agree. I don't think Wick is needed in that. Now, if he had done the first part of it, where they meet and they have a conversation, that's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. And they just did that, and he was just like, okay, boom, I'm gone. Okay, fine. But then we get a full-on, hey, Keanu, you're going to come and shoot some action sequences, and you're going to actually get a John Wick section of this movie. And I'm like, I want to see what's going on with Eve. Like, I love Keanu. I love John Wick. I don't think this is needed in this movie, because at this point, we have established Eve. We are fully into her story. We are fully into her character. So to then pause the movie for 5 minutes of John Wick fighting, it was not necessary. It was not needed. And
especially what we'll get into in the spoiler section, it's like, I don't think that it's true to the characters, and I think there are continuity issues.
Yeah. It fucks up the timeline then by that point, by bringing them back into the movie. Where at the first part of the film, it made sense. Second part of the film, I'm going, and I think Kimberly and I were both in discussion of it after the movie. It was like, I don't know where we're at now, when this movie ends, where we are at in the John Wick story, because he comes back in this movie. I don't understand where we're at in this because of where John Wick is.
Yeah, this isn't even spoiler, because it's all I'm saying is that John Wick is here. He shows up. Because okay, it takes place kind of. Let's
hold the John Wick part to the spoiler.
Okay.
Just that way let's because we'll go deeper into it. Let's hold off on that.
Yeah.
Back to Ballerina though. Ana de Armas is great. She's fantastic. I liked the opening prologue with young Eve and her dad, which I'm blanking on the dad's name, but he's from Umbrella Academy, and I love that dude.
Okay. I recognize him from somewhere. Gotcha.
David Castaneda. But as soon as I was like, I know him, and I was like, Umbrella Academy, yes, awesome, I love the guy. At first, because and this is me being stupid in my own brain, when I saw Gabriel Byrne's character, I'm like, is he supposed to be young Ian McShane? Because he kind of looks like Ian McShane a little bit. So I'm like, is this similarity? Yeah. I was like, is this young Winston? I was like, no, because the way he's acted, I was like, Winston wouldn't do this. So he's a separate character. But I thought that was a very good prologue. The training wasn't really crazy about it, but it was necessary and it was needed. But I was just kind of like, can we fucking can we move this along, kind of thing. But it's fine for what it is. Like, and it's needed and it's established. I just wasn't really necessarily loving the ballerina thing. But like I love that they did exactly what you said. They established that, look, Eve, you're smaller in height, strength, everything. You need to figure out a way to fight these people and not just fight them, but win, or you're going to die. And so she cheats, she fights dirty, she goes for the nuts. She is basically, and unlike John Wick, yes, she's dangerous with a gun, but she's nowhere on John Wick's level. But she's also better at John Wick in finding these other things, these other items, using a knife and sword at one point. The flamethrower aspect was like awesome. I think we watched the trailer like, okay, but like watching them be like, oh, holy shit, this is amazing. The highlight of this movie, first off, this is the goriest of the Wick franchise, hands down, because of one word: fucking grenades, man. She is the grenade queen. Like, John Wick is Mr. Bullets. She's the grenade bomber. Like, the way she utilizes this and the way they utilize it in the fight choreography, certain aspects. There's one in particular. There were so many times where Kimberly and I are both going, oh, in the theater, because it was so awesome. And the way they shot it and the way they utilized the explosives, because there's a lot of times like, oh, it's an explosive, wouldn't she have died? It's like, well, no, because she utilizes her surroundings so that way she does not get hurt when she throws these grenades. And like I said, and that's the one thing that we can always trust with John Wick, is that everything about the aspect of the world is believable to the point where I can buy that they wouldn't get hurt here, or they at least maybe have their bell rung, and not that, oh, you would have died here. One part of this that I do love, and you and I both aren't a fan of this, but we've kind of accepted it because of the John Wick world. Up until John Wick showing up in the second act, there was no. There was no suit.
There wasn't any the bulletproof suit bullshit.
The bulletproof suit was not a thing here. When you got shot, you got fucking shot, and it hurt. And unless you had like a bulletproof vest on, it wasn't until John Wick showed up that he started bringing the thing. I'm like, oh, maybe we almost got this. It's kind of like people not wanting lightsabers in Star Wars. It's like, oh, we almost got through this whole thing without a bulletproof suit. We almost made it. But I loved it. Felt more brutal than the other films because they didn't have these bulletproof aspects in the film. So when Eve got shot, or when she shot somebody, or knives or anything like that, or definitely the explosion aspect, it was more violent and brutal and just awesome all around. Now the negatives for me, or the things that I don't want to say negatives, but things that didn't really work for me. There's a big story aspect to the villain that they drop about right before the third act. I think was, oh shit, but it didn't land as well, or they didn't give it enough time to establish it. I felt like that it was opening up to something very, very big, and I felt like they rushed through it in like 5 to 7 minutes, and I was like, that didn't have the same landing as I was hoping it was going to have, and I really wish they would have established that better or made it more, not grounded. What's the word I'm thinking of? You know what I'm talking about, though, right? Without me having to say it.
I'm not 100% certain. So
Gabriel Byrne's connection to Eve.
His connection here?
Okay. Yeah. And who he is outside of just, the guy who killed her father, but who he is, and the female baddie. Mm-hmm. Their connection and stuff like that. I feel like they could have established that better or hit that home harder, so that way it made more sense. Because that was the one thing too is no, I'll leave that for spoiler. I'll skip over that for now. But like Gabriel Byrne's thought process of what he thinks Eve's doing is not. Eve don't give a flying fuck about that. Like, Eve's on track for him for this one thing. He thinks she's on track for him for this other thing. And I guarantee you, Eve wasn't even thinking about that other thing. That was just like a side thing. And it was annoying me that like they didn't get on the same page of, why the why was there for both. They both were thinking for different things. And that annoyed me. Norman Reedus, was happy to see him in this. He's wasted.
Well, that was the thing is I felt Norman Reedus showed up and he was in like basically the one scene essentially. And it's like, why are you here? It's like I'm not sure unless they're trying to set him up for something else. But then
unless they can, I mean, he might be in continuations of this, which okay, but I feel like they could have utilized him a little bit more.
It kind of felt like Ana de Armas in fucking No Time to Die, where it's like, okay, you're here for a scene, but what was the point of that?
Yeah, I feel like they could have utilized him a little bit more, had him stick around. If you're gonna knock him out, okay, knock him out of the movie, but do it a little bit later. Establish a connection between him and Eve, so that way the one aspect of the story hits more or makes more fucking sense, because at that point nothing's fully established at that point, and yet we're supposed to carry that into the third act. One thing I did like, I want to say it wasn't in the club, because the club was still doing the one thing I hate, where there's fighting and shooting going on and people are still thing. But it is during the Norman Reedus scene where he like shoots it into the sky. People actually ran. People were like not all assassins. There's like, these are actually real people. And they're going, oh shit, gunfire. So I was like, oh my God, we're finally getting a world where basically they're fighting and people are going, oh, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So that was not, that's the first thing I noticed when he, like, Norman Reedus shot the gun in the air and people scrambled. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Because that's the one thing, is like, oh, the whole world's a bunch of assassins. No, it's not. Special tip of the hat that Lance Reddick showed up, even for 2 minutes. It was nice to see him back in it again. I was so happy for that. But yeah, overall, I really had a blast with this. It exceeded my expectations for what it did action-wise. Story-wise, it was bad. I expected it'll be a little bit more tighter, which I guess we'll go into a little bit more on the spoiler aspect of it. But I was happy with what we got. And it's one of my more favorite ones. I think I have it in the up. Granted, it's been 5 John Wicks now, if you count the Ballerina movie. I have it above John Wick 1 and 2. And then it's behind 3 and 4 for me. But I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really good for what it did. It could have been stronger. It could have been better in certain aspects. But I think for what we got, it's a great introduction to the Eve character. I hope we get more of her, and I would think we would. But who knows based on the box office, because you could think it did well, and then like, yeah, we're not going to come back and do that again. But please let Honor to Armas have another crack at this. If we're going to be getting what's his name? Kane. If we're going to get another Kane spinoff, which I don't think anyone of us really cared about, then Eve deserves to have
at all. I don't want to see him, or I don't care about his daughter. I'm like, I don't want to see that. I want to see more of Honor to Armas. I want to see him bring back Sophia and her goddamn dogs. Have her team up with her.
If you can have a girl team up with Honor to Armas and Halle Berry with the dogs, I am there.
If you want to throw in that other guy, the tracker from 4 with his dog, bring him in too. I like them.
Bring them in and kind of be like this group that like works along Wick, or maybe they finally kill Wick off in the 5th one, because we know he's not dead now. And those 3 come together going, we're going to fucking find out who killed John. And you have them all 3 together, or something else. But I really hope they give Anna another crack at this, because I really want to see her doing more. Anything else like that? Or I don't think you gave a score yet.
Oh, I also gave it 4 stars. Pretty much all the same reasons. Because the action was great. The story was actually about what I expected. Honestly, I won't say I was disappointed by the story. But I think that if you took out the John Wick scenes, it'd be 4.5 for me.
I'm more inclined to agree with that comment as well. Anything else before we jump into spoiler?
Nope.
All right, guys. So if you guys have not seen Ballerina yet and you do not want to be spoiled, leave now. We'll be back, or at least I'll probably be back next week for How to Train Your Dragon review. I don't know if Brian, are you checking that out? No. Okay. So I'll at least be back for a How to Train Your Dragon review, and then we'll be back at the end of the month for our first half year in review, where we'll talk about the first 6 months of 2025 so far. We'll also probably have another review dump. I don't know. This was a bulk of the review dump, so we might, depends on what rest of we see the rest of June. We might have another review dump for everything that we saw in June, but we definitely will be back for the first half year in review. If you guys have seen Ballerina, here's your spoiler drop right now before we dive into everything. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the John Wick timeline. Clearly in the first part of the film, we know, okay, we're at that part where he punches his ticket. He's getting ready to go to, was it Morocco to see Halle Berry? Is that where they're at?
Yeah,
or Casablanca. Casablanca. So we know, boom, that's where he's at. Then he shows up in the second half of the film to basically go and kill Eve. We know his finger's missing already, so we know he's already gone to the desert. Are we saying that John Wick, while he's still being hunted by everybody, because at this point he is still, or isn't it after he saying that he's no longer being hunted? I'm trying to remember John Wick Chapter 3. Once he gave his finger away,
he went to the desert and he had to cut off his finger, and then he was supposed to go back into America and kill Winston.
Yeah.
So
at some point between there and there, he decided to take a phone call and then stop there and kill Eve and then go to New York? Because that's the only way it makes sense, because there's no way he would have gone to New York first, because he's supposed to be dead at the end of John Wick Chapter 3 because he fell off the building and he's recouping. And it's definitely not going into John Wick Chapter 4 because he's still there when we open up in John Wick Chapter 4. He's recouping from his injury. So basically, you're telling me that he decided to stop, which once again would have pissed off the organization, to stop and do this task before going and taking out Winston. That's where the part of the storyline fucks up for me.
And the John Wick movies take place in such a small amount of time. It's like, I'm not even sure there's enough time in there for him to be, and then logistically to be, whether he's coming from Morocco, whether he's coming from wherever, he shows up on a train to Prague. I'm like, where the fuck did you come from?
Because you also got to remember this too. From the moment that she talks to John Wick, it says 2 months passed. I think pretty much the events of John Wick Chapter 3 and 4 are within like 10 days. Not 2 months plus later.
Yeah.
Because it does jump 2 months later for her, and she's already into the dig. So once again, the storylines don't add up because you threw John Wick in there at the end of the movie. And that's where it gets confusion for me. I was
talking the exact same thing. It was when I saw John Wick showing up in the early scenes, I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. But then, when he shows up to first of all, I don't think he would. She's like, oh, I'm going to send somebody to take care of it. Why would John Wick agree to do this? First of all, what motivation does he have?
The only reason I could think of is
unless she had some way of like, okay, I can get this contract off your head if you do this for me. But she doesn't have that kind of power because the high table is well above her, and so she couldn't offer him that. And like you said, he's already on the run. And he's just not doing it for the money, obviously. He has nothing against this girl. So why would he even agree to go after her, for starters?
And also, why wouldn't anyone in Prague want to kill him for the bounty at that point? Because his bounty is higher than anybody else's.
Because we've already established that there are assassins, like half the world's population is assassins in this world. So it's like it didn't fit the character because I don't see why he would agree to do it. It doesn't fit the timeline because I'm not sure he has time where he could get to there and do this before he has to get back into his own movie's timeline. And so it felt so much like just forced in there unnecessarily. Because I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that's going to this movie going, oh, I'm going to go see this new John Wick movie. It's like, no, because I think it's quite clear that it's like this Ballerina movie and John and Keanu Reeves in a couple scenes. But I don't see that being a draw for people being like, oh, I'll go see it. I wasn't going to see it, but now that Keanu's in a couple scenes, I'll go. So it's like,
and if that is the reason why you went to go see it, then I don't want you watching the John Wick franchise in the first place because you're not paying attention to what the actual fucking story is, which is this awesome character in Eve that we are basically being introduced to. You don't need John there as a crux to make sure you guys watch the movie and enjoy the movie.
Well, in addition to what I was talking about, how I don't think it's in John's character of why he would even agree to do this. But let's say he did agree to do this, but then if he says, okay, yes, I will go kill this person, and has he ever before met his target and had them go, oh, can you just give me like another hour to finish this up first? And
that was the other thing too, is like if all you had to do was have a conversation with John, for John to go, okay. It's like,
okay, I'll just wait around for an hour and do your thing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and it's like, and then they all attack John. And it's just like, you would have been like, okay, and I would have said something like, okay, you guys can collect the bounty on John Wick. Like, okay, so there's the point. But they never. It's always like, oh, John Wick attacked us. Okay, now we're gonna attack John Wick, because I don't think anyone was really going after John until John shot first.
Well, no, because he showed up in town and
they said let the wolf hunt its prey.
And he said nobody kill anybody, let him do his thing. And so they basically ordered to leave alone. But as soon as he shot one of them, they're like, fuck it, you're on the menu now.
Yeah, but once again, at least drop the line of collect the bounty, because he still has all that money on him. And the only reason I can think of why he would have done it.
First of all, I loved this town. This whole town.
This town was awesome.
It's basically the whole town is this family, or this extended family, this community of people who are all apparently part of this organization, and so everyone in town is basically I loved it. It kind of felt like fucking Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. Grandmas are ripping out the guns and shit like that.
Hot Fuzz was exactly what I was thinking about when that happened. Like, this is Hot Fuzz, and I love it.
And so I think that they didn't need the bounty. They were like, okay, this person is attacking our community and we are all going to fight back against him. So I don't think the bounty was an issue. It was
more or less what established that he was still being hunted at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just, he goes in there. He basically, and that's the thing that sucks about it too, is that they had to have them fight, which basically just further established that John's better than Eve. Which we already know that, but you didn't need to have John come in there and basically dominate the lead character to further establish that no, John is still above her.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like you know that like they're not going to have either of them, win or have like one. Obviously, neither one's getting killed. It's kind of like the Godzilla versus Kong thing. It's like, well, they're going to end up teaming up against the bad guy because they're not going to have one of these two die. So it's like you're not creating any suspense.
Yeah, but in this one, John just completely dominates the fuck out of her, and then he just decides to let her go. It's no like, oh, this is an even fight. It's like, no, John's just that much better. And it's like, okay, but that just makes Eve look weak in comparison, and you didn't need to do that to the Eve character. She's established herself as a badass in this whole film. You didn't need John to come in and go, I'm still better, kind of thing. Which John didn't even want to do it. He was just like, let's, just go home. I don't want to fight you. But that whole thing just irked me. And then, like I said, bringing in the story concept of Gabriel, which we knew at the beginning of the movie that he was the grandfather of Eve because his daughter was her mother. But then you find out that the other woman is her sister, and you're like, oh shit!
Well, here's the thing about
how the hell is this going to work out? And then it got so like rushed through that I was just like, you guys could have made this like work. And then I was like, oh, then you find out Norman Reedus is her uncle, basically. And it's like, so then this little girl is her cousin, and so I'm like, all right. But then they're like, so the whole fucking time Gabriel Byrne thinks she's after the girl, and she's like, she doesn't even probably know that the girl's fucking even there. Like, she don't give a shit about the girl. She's literally just coming in like the whole time, all the way up to the point. You think you're gonna save her? You think I'm like, I don't think Eve's probably like, who the fuck are you even talking about? Because there's never, that would have helped if they had Norman Reedus in the movie more. Like, you need to protect her. Like, I'm hurt. You need to protect her. You need to get her back, whatever. So that way it's like a side mission for her. I don't think she even fucking knew that she was there until the very moment because she got knocked the fuck out. And when Reedus got hurt, they took the kid. Okay, fine. But her whole time while she's there, I don't think that girl was even a remote thought in Eve's brain.
I think it was, but it was definitely just a secondary thing. I think that she had her own motivations.
Her motivation was to kill Gabriel Byrne, but Gabriel Byrne's whole thought process is that Eve's after me for the girl. That was never in the cards. Well, because
I think he didn't know who she was at first, but
he did because as soon as she got captured, he's like, I killed her father. She's your sister. And that's it.
There's the very like the opening, the prologue of the movie where you talk about the sister disappeared. I'm like, okay, that's coming back. So as soon as you saw another female character, I'm like, that's her sister. And sure enough, like 20 minutes later, like, guess what? It's her sister. I'm like, yeah, we all fucking knew that from.
I honestly either didn't hear that line or my brain didn't. So I didn't
like very early on, like in the first like 5 minutes of the movie, they say this line, and you're like, okay, that's kind of, she talked.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just like listened and just like went one hour out there. I definitely didn't get it. So he's like, your sister. I'm like, oh shit, because
So I totally forgot that, and then I forgot it. When you were talking about the connection with Gabriel Byrne, the reason I was puzzled because I honestly forgot for a minute that he was the grandfather. I'm like well, he's clearly not her father because her father was this other guy, but I forgot he was the mom's dad, so it made sense.
But yeah, and then like I said, Norman Reedus is her uncle then at that point. So it's like, thank God there was no romantic connection there because I would have But yeah, so it's like the whole big family affair for Eve, but it's just kind of like glossed over. Like there is no that is your grandfather. There really is no connection or connective tissue or dialogue for that. Norman Reedus is your uncle. Glossed over, no connective tissue. This little girl's actually your cousin. No connective tissue. This girl's your sister. Okay, we're sister. Boom, you're dead. Okay. And it's like,
yeah, that's just it. They found that and it was over so quickly. You're like, oh, okay, I guess.
Like I said, it could have hit better if you took the time to establish it. But it's like, I'm in the movie and I'm connecting the fucking family tree in my head. And like, I'm like talking to Kim, I'm like, so Norman Reedus is her uncle, right? Does that make the girl her niece or cousin? She goes, cousin. I'm like, okay. I was like, so this is like the whole one big family thing. But you could have like taken that whole thing out of the film and the movie is still the same fucking movie. Like, the family connection has zero bearing on this film at all, which I feel like it could have either, if that's the case, then just take it the fuck out of the movie. Don't make Gabriel Byrne her grandfather. Just make it, some guy that, her father used to work for or something, because the family aspect literally had no bearing on the rest of this film. And then once again, now she's excommunicado because at the very end of the movie, she now has a bounty on her fucking head. So if we get a sequel, are we basically just doing John Wick Chapter 3 all over again, but it's Eve? Because that's basically what it looks like what we're lining up to, is that she's now on the run and everyone's after her ass. Which, once again, not upset by that, but that's basically kind of what we got the whole second act of the movie when she's in the town, was everyone's hunting her. So that's basically it's just the same movie elongated. So you got to come up with some other thing without making people feel like it's just a rehash of John Wick Chapter 3, which I'm sure they can come up with something. I trust Stahelski and all of them will come up with a better storyline for that if they decide to go that route. But yeah, I really enjoyed the action in this movie. Like I said, the grenades were awesome. I even enjoyed like the side characters we got, like that dude who ran the armory. Frank. Frank.
Can I be Frank?
Yeah, let me be Frank. Yeah, let me be Frank. I love that guy. I thought that guy was great. But like, I enjoyed the world we got with her, which is still the same world that John Wick had, but I feel like it felt more lived in here. Like with Eve, it felt like we got to live in the world more, whereas like John Wick was just kind of like, is this the real world? And everyone's just trying to fucking kill him. Like, I'm not sure. Whereas with Eve, it's like, I feel like this world was more lived in. Because now we have clans, which is like a cult, and there's all these like side, like there's a pact, but it's being broken. What's gonna happen if this becomes a war? I was like, oh, okay, this is shit that we didn't get in John Wick. Like,
well, that's what John Wick has always done best. The whole franchise is the first movie alone, they created this awesome world, the world building. But then like every movie since then, it expanded the world, and this one just was able to further expand it into this whole other section with the clans and stuff, which I really loved what they did with it.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what else outside of like making it come off like a rehash of Chapter 3, what they could allow Eve to do, since she's now excommunicado. Now, I was hoping that maybe I don't know if they would actually have just let her back in, but they wouldn't have just straight up just set it up for John Wick Chapter 3 with Eve.
Yeah, see, I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but I feel like there's been interviews people have talked to her about, would she like to be in John Wick 5, or she'd like to team up with John Wick or something, and she's been kind of evasive about it. So I kind of think that's where it's going to go. I don't know if we're going to get into Ballerina 2, but I think she will be a part of the John Wick universe now, and I think we will see her again. I just hope we also get to see some of those other ones that we want to see. So.
Yeah, but yeah, the the grenades, the flames, everything about that, I loved. Because
flamethrower fight. How I knew she was going to use a flamethrower, and of course, there's the one shot in the trailers with the hose versus the flamethrower. I love how at one point it turned into like a gunfight, like coming out and shooting.
Yes,
like bullets.
There was one. I said this to Kimberly, and I don't know if she heard me or not because it was so loud in there. There's that one dude, which he has the flamethrower. Like, it's slow-mo. He's running away from her, and she's just lighting his ass up repeatedly. I'm like, this poor guy. Like, he's a bad guy. I get it. It was like, he's slow-mo running. Doosh, doosh, doosh. He's down to the ground. He's dead. I'm like, okay. God damn. Like, that guy you didn't have to do that guy like that. Like, he was just like, fucking A. Like, I felt bad for the dude. I really did. It was a little over the top aggressive. Because I think the main thing we saw with in the trailer was the water the water hose and the fire thing, and Kimberly even pointed out, she's like, that water would be scalding hot at that point because the fire's hitting it and it's splashing onto the dude. The dude's not reactive to it. But yeah, the grenades, man. When she's in Frank's place and she's in the grenades, that one where she like flips over the table and like it. I was like, oh.
And I also love there's the one you see in the trailer where it's a grenade and she shuts the big heavy steel door and she uses it to like guard herself. And he explodes and like, okay, we saw that in the trailer. And then she opens the door, you see it open up a door to the next room. Like, oh, cool.
It's a total video game scene. Yeah. And then there's like the one dude, like the bird's eye guy, and like she throws the guy over the side of the building, and he's like watching, and he just there's so many great like awesome moments like that. I also really enjoyed when she goes into was it a tavern? And it was like the lower floor, and then the tavern. When she first gets to the town.
There's a second.
And it's that one stunt double guy in Wick is Pain where he gets killed by John Wick in every movie, but he's always playing a different dude. Yeah. Because like she goes in, she tries to get some coffee, and then like everyone leaves, and then he comes in, and then all of a sudden all the people who left come back in, and then she fights the bartender, and like that whole fight. And then she like I love the whole because I'm watching this movie, and I'm like mentally in my head I'm like lining up stuff for our award show. I'm like, okay. Best action scene, best fight. And then I was like, okay, no, that one. Okay, no, that one. And that I'm like, fuck, I'm just going to say pick a scene from Ballerina. Because at this point, it's like all these scenes are awesome.
This is going to be like, I don't remember what movie it was. I think last year. Did we have that problem where we had to say a movie could only get one nomination because otherwise the whole thing would be...
We've had that. There's always at least one movie every year.
Where it's like all the action scenes could come from this movie, but we gotta limit it,
Exactly, and Ballerina is gonna be that movie. And if there's another movie that comes out that's like that, that's been great. But yeah, like last year, I think it was there was a couple movies. It was like Shadow Strays, and I think you had some for. I
think we had several from Fall Guy we considered too.
Yeah, we had a few from Fall Guy, and then you had a couple from Skarsgård's movie.
Oh boy, I mean. Boy
Kills World or Boy Eats World or whatever. But yeah, so it's like this one, I was like, literally every action scene could be nominated for our award show. Fight scene wise, there's a few in there that could be nominated. But yeah, I had a blast with this. It was just literally like the John Wick of it all, and then story plot lines that were thrown in here that were just glossed over that really could turn this movie from a 4.5 down to a 4. I'm still gonna recommend the hell out of this movie because it's a fun film, and Ana de Armas is great in this. And what I like about it, and you brought it up, is the club scene where it was kind of stiff. Mm-hmm. I took that more as this was her first job. She's not gonna be perfect because and she played it off that way, where it's just like she keeps fucking up, stuff like that. She's also fighting on ice. The ice skating scene, that was another great scene. It just popped in my brain, the ice skating fight with the skates. That reminded me of Violent Night. I immediately went to Violent Night for that. But yeah, that club scene.
She put them on on the gloves, but then she started using them like almost like bladed nunchucks.
Like nunchucks. It was so fucking cool. But yeah, the club scene, it was very stiff and disjointed because it was her very, very first mission. So she's not going to be crisp. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that made sense that way for her. That it was going to be ugly. Because, I mean, I remember watching it. Kimberly was getting frustrated with her when she was fighting the main dude because she was like, just fucking shoot him. And she's like left him alive and shit. Like she like hit the hammer like on the ice and then just walked away. It's like, what makes you think that guy's not going to like come back and get you? Which he didn't for some reason. But no, I thought that made sense with the club scene being that way because she's not perfected yet. But I did love that one transition. Well, it wasn't a transition, but like when it jumps 2 months later. And she's like in the bathroom and she takes the shard of glass out. First off, comedic wise, loved how she just kept going and picking up her knife. It's like she's in a video game. She's recovering her ammo. That's smart. Always pick up your ammo. But then she gets in the car and she's driving away. And I saw and I'm like, what the fuck's going on up here? And then that car hits her and it brings it right back into center frame again. That shot was awesome. Loved that shot. And then the axe to the fucking face. It's like I said, this is the most violent, brutal of the John Wick franchise. And I had a blast with it. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end this?
No, I think we covered it all.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed these reviews. If you guys did, hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, you're going to follow us on all the social media as you see below. Let us know in your comments below. What did you think of these 4 films if you watched them? Did you guys like Predator? Did you guys like Dangerous Animals, Life of Chuck, Ballerina? Let us know. Like I said, coming up next, How to Train Your Dragon comes out this week. I'm definitely going to be checking that out. Brian said he's not. So I'll probably have a review for that. Unless we might leave it off to the end of the month for the mass review dump. It kind of just depends on how the week goes for me, but we definitely will be having some conversation about How to Train Your Dragon's review, whether it be next weekend or at the end of the month. I will be discussing it at some point. Is there another movie besides How to Train Your Dragon that comes out this week?
This week, you have nothing big. You have Deep Cover on Amazon Prime. That's the Bryce Dallas Howard Orlando Bloom movie.
Which I do want to see that.
You have Echo Valley on Apple, which is the Julianne Moore, Sydney Sweeney movie. How to Train Your Dragon, Materialist, and Unholy Trinity, that's super limited though.
What's Unholy Trinity?
That's
that's the Samuel Jackson one.
Western.
Oh, and The Materialist, which I actually do want to check out.
I'm gonna check it out, despite the fact that it has maybe the worst actress working today.
You know? Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna like rush to theaters to see it, but I do want to check out The Materialist at some point. And then next week we've got 28 Years Later, which I need to watch the first two again before I even try watching next. I don't think I ever watched Weeks. I think I watched Days when it came out. I don't remember it at all, and I don't think I ever watched Weeks. So I have to watch both of those before I go back or try to see Years. But Aaron Taylor Johnson's in that, so I gotta check it out. Then you got Bride Hard, which could easily be the worst film of the year, or maybe be just okay. I don't expect that to be good or anything. Then you got Pixar's Elo. I still don't know if I'm really gonna go see that or not. It hasn't really. It might be one of those things I might just wait and catch it on an off day or wait until it pops on Disney Plus. And then and then of course the month ends with F1. I mean, yeah, that's the next big one outside of How to Train Your Dragon. Because I'm definitely checking F1 out right away because that movie is going to be awesome. And Megan 2.0, I never saw the first Megan, so I ain't gonna watch that. Unless I somehow watched Megan somehow between now and then, maybe. But like I said, we got plenty of movies coming out. Like I said, most of them we're probably gonna hold off until the end of the month where we do our massive review dump. But at the end of the month, Brian and I will definitely be back for the first half year in review where we go over the first 6 months of 2025, what we loved, what we disliked, what we were surprised about, and what we were disappointed about as we all go look ahead into the final 6 months of the year. So we got plenty of stuff coming down the pipe, so I hope you guys check that out with us. And like I said, I'll be back here either next week with How to Train Your Dragon, or we'll be back at the end of the month for the first half of 2025. But we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Wascrew. That is Brian Michaels. Until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies, go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.